Accept death and you'll accept life. This is one of the concepts that was the most profound that propelled me into the spiritual adventure that I like to call journey. What I found that when people say, why does it take something so traumatic to always get us to awaken? Because we're literally a shell. We're a shell of a human. We've only been what we've been given through the powers of our mother and father creation, right? And then we pop out into the world and we're molded the way we need to be molded, and we only know life. That's why death is scary. If you only come from life, you only know life, which is limiting beliefs, limiting behaviors, stagnant energy, you stay where you are, then death seems so scary and overwhelming. When you recognize that life and death are all around you all the time, when you eat food and defecate, that's life and death. The food was alive at one point, you put it through your body, and now it's dead energy. But it has nutrients and it can go back to the earth and be utilized. Again, maybe not so much for humans based on our diet, but it can work for animals because they graze on grass and stuff all day. So they're going back right back to the soil. The thing about us is we pay too much attention to what we think we're losing versus what we gain. We gain experience every year we're alive. Whatever a year is, that was man-made too. The time here on this earth is infinite as long as you take care of yourself to the best of your ability. Things will happen. Unfortunate circumstances do happen. It happens all the time. I always say, imagine us as humans as ants. Just how there's people going around pouring hot molten lava down ant holes. Well, that's what nature does to humans sometimes through hurricanes and tornadoes and other things. So it's a tragic loss, but at the same time, it's life and death of the earth, because it's knowing that I need to make sure that this is a part of this process that you understand is ongoing. It's never going to stop. Your skin sheds all the time. That's life and death. Everything about your body is always growing and changing. You do not have the same toenails that you did when you were a kid. You don't have the same eyes. You might have the same particles that made them, but they have developed and changed over time. They've been experienced to different exposures, so they're going to have a different experience now and a different history attached to them. So when you start learning that there's more life beyond what you've been given, that's where the whole analogy of life begins beyond your comfort zones. When you allow death, death is not a scary thing because you're not going to get away from it. It ain't going nowhere. That's what I keep telling people. After working in the hospital, after working in animal rescue and all these things, you can rescue an animal to the best of your ability, but unfortunately, the conditions of which it was found, it might pass away still. That's not your fault. You did what you could do, and at least it passed somewhere safe and loved versus cold and dark and by itself, right? That's where you have to find the silver lining. The same thing with humans. Unfortunately, that is a part of our condition that we don't accept. Gerontology is close to my heart because I used to work in hospice care and I used to work with elders. And I'm like, people just look at them like old people, but I'm like, this was a young person at one point in time and they just lived their life. And now they're here as a vessel of experience and memories and knowledge and whatever else, but they have nowhere to put it. That's where death begins. When I kept seeing, like, oh my God, they have all this knowledge and now they're just rotting away by themselves. That's the oversaturation of something. Think about it. Once the juice is too juicy of a fruit and it starts rotting in itself, the juices take over. It just gets rotten faster. That's all I notice, right? Or it just gets worse when it's in its own juice. So when we learn how to give back, which is teaching and talking and sharing and asking questions, we're giving life back to something. And that helps the death process easier, because then when someone passes from this earth, they can be like, at least I was able to give back in this way, in this manner, in this way. You don't have to go out and do physical teaching. The representation of self can be the teaching to others. Somebody can be looking at you your whole life and you not know that they're admiring you, saying, wow, as long as I can age that gracefully, as long as I can be like that when I'm older, oh my God, thank God. And this person's just like, I'm just living my life, right? But it's because they've accepted that death is happening regardless. So you have to live the life you have. And that's when you begin to love the one you do have, which is where gratitude work comes in. Gratitude work is simply saying, I understand that everything is not going to be the way I want it to be. But I also understand, depending on how I put my energy into it, it could be the way I want it to be, or at least as close as possible, right? I'm grateful for where I'm at. I'm grateful for what I have. I'm not always going to be happy. People forget gratitude and happiness are not one and the same. I can be upset and still be grateful, right? I can be happy and not in gratitude at all. They're separate energies. You have to learn them. This is why integration of space and emotional intelligence matter, because when you make space for self and you move stuff out of the way that belong to someone else, now you have all this empty space, which most people, when they're by themselves, they feel scared because it's like, what do I do with all this empty space? It's emptiness syndrome. It's all of it. We can replicate it in the physical world for parents when their children leave and are like, what do I do with myself now? What you've always wanted to do, boo. Like, you got to this point of stability that you prove that you're stable enough to take care of your family and get them out into the world. Now go back to you. Don't now become depressed and make their life your life, because that's not going to do anything. Now you're draining yourself. You can share their life and that gives you excitement about things that they're doing that makes you remember what you liked about yourself, but still create things that are for yourself, right? This is life and death. Because when you let something old, which is no longer working for you, die away, something new will always be reborn in its place. That's how the energy works on this earth. I don't know how it works on other parts, but in this earth, no matter what happens, even if you lose something that you physically, tangibly can't touch again, you will find a way to create a space that is now replicatory of what that space used to represent to you. And you're probably not going to think about it again. You hear people all the time and they're like, oh my God, this happened to me. Again, the tragic accident that would cause an amputation sucks. But a lot of them say, I don't even think about it anymore. Like, now that it's not there, it's kind of freed me, or this or that. And there's some people like, no, I want my part back. That's understandable too. But you have to understand that the process of life and death in that emotional world and that state of being is still a choice as well. I am not going to put myself in that world of saying that I understand someone who's an amputee, because I don't. I'm using it as an example because I used to work in the healthcare field, and this is how people would talk to me. Like, this is what they're going through, and I would just have to go through it with them. I would be there after that fresh surgery where they're just like, this isn't real. This isn't happening, right? But the death of that leg happened, so they have to mourn it. It's important to recognize that it's no longer there. And then when they start to come to terms with it, you start learning how to bring life back to yourself in a different way, because you understand this isn't the end. I still have options. Hopefully. Again, that's not everyone's story, and I'm not saying that that is, but I'm trying to give you examples of energy to work with so you can work through your own trauma and when you're going through death energy, right? Because it's never going to go anywhere. At one point in time, I have put myself in so many situations where I was like, you didn't have to do that. And this could have happened to you, this could have happened to you, this could have happened to you. And that was enough for me to be like, I'm good. Thank you. I understand. My life is more important than doing that thing in that way again. That's what it's about when you accept that death is around you, life is around you. How you choose to use them is up to you, because they're both energies. When you see somebody out there, I just watched The Last Holiday. I love that movie. It will forever be one of my favorite movies, because I always cry, because it's a remembrance of, you can do everything right in this human world, but spiritually speaking, are you creating happiness and joy and memories for yourself? Are you actually going out there and living and making it worth remembering? Or are you only fasting on what you used to be and making yourself starved in depression because you don't know how to replicate what someone else gave you? That's death to me. That's the decaying in it. Or you can step out of it and just watch it decay. It's a choice. Unfortunately, it is a dualistic choice where you can stay in the rot or step out of it and watch it rot. I personally would rather do it like, what's that movie where Angela Bassett, she blew the car up? That's her not sitting in the decay of it and just wallowing with all his stuff around her crying. She said, no, I'm gonna blow it up. And that was life to her. That was the rebirth. It began all over again. So again, remember, it is your choice how you live and die. Just make sure it's one that is created by you for you, so that when you do leave, it's just, okay, well, I did my part. Love you.